Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everybody. My name is Hidayah Dian Utami. Today, I want to explain about a neat analysis of ESP material for agriculture students
at Indonesian Vocational School in West Sulawesi.
the journal I lead. The writer is Hajar A. and Trias Tuti A. 2021 about a neat analysis of ESP material for agriculture students at Indonesian Vocation School in West Sulawesi. There is journal explain about Indonesian Journal of English Language
Teaching
and Applied Linguistic. Table of contents. The first, definition of ESP. The second method, there are participants, instrument, and data analysis procedure. The third is need analysis. There are target need and learning need. Number 4, findings. And the last, syllabus. The first definition ESP. ESP is defined as an approach to language testing in which all decisions as to content and method are based on the learner's reason for learning. According to Hutchinson and Winters, 1987. The second is method. There are participants. The participants of
this
research were the 11th grade agricultural students of SMK N1 Tapango. Moreover, the participants were 25 students consisting of 18 female and 7 male students. The next is instrument. This research used a questionnaire to obtain the data. The next is data analysis procedure. The result of the questionnaire was analyzed by seeing the frequency of the participant opinions and viewers about their needs, lack, and want in English. The statistic points employed for analyzing those data means and present tense. Then the researchers present the data in the form, table, or chart. Result of need analysis ESP material for agriculture student at Indonesian Vocation School in West Sulawesi. The third need analysis, there are target needs. There are necessities. The first is the student have the main goal of learning English to speak English well. Number 2, the agriculture student often needs speaking skill while they work later in their line of work. The next is like number 1, translate text, and number 2, translate word. The next is 1. That agriculture student
were most interested in including learning about cultivation plants,
followed by processing agriculture product in their English learning material. The next is learning needs. There are learning activities. English learning activities for agriculture students should involve student activity by group work and making project. The next is teaching method. Communicate language teaching approach or CLT media. Computer, projector, social media, online books, and online games. Example, cohort and quizzes. The next is findings. ESP needs analysis of agriculture students. ESP need analysis of agriculture students. The question in the questionnaire are an extension of the question about ESP need of vocation school students, especially those who are participating in agriculture programs. The question can be seen in the table below as follows. English learning objective of agriculture student at vacation school. The English learning objective of student, especially for EXP objective, is formulated by considering several factors such as student main goal, types of English skill and knowledge that student will use often while they are working later in their job field, and also the most difficult skill and knowledge of English for student to master. Researchers have explained and summarized the result of the questionnaire related to the considered factor in the form of a graph of answer understanding as follows. The result of the first question about the main objective of agriculture student in learning English for person students chose to learn English to be able to communicate in English well. Then about 16% of students chose to learn English to be able to understand reading in English. Above 12% of student learn English to be able to understand the grammar in English. And then about 8% of students chose learn English as personal reason or other reason. The result of the second question about the types of English skill and knowledge that students will use often while they are working in their job file showed that about 64% of students chose speaking. Then about 12% of students chose listening. About 8% of students chose writing and pronunciation. And then about 4% of students chose vocabulary and reading. The result of the third question about the most difficult skill and knowledge of English for students to master showed that about 64% of students chose speaking. Then about 12% of students chose listening. About 8% of students chose writing and pronunciation. And then about 4% of students chose vocabulary and reading. The next is the result of the fourth question about topic about agricultural that students want to be included in learning English showed that about of students chose cultivate land. Then about 24% of students chose purchasing agricultural product. And then about 20% of students chose operate a tool related to agriculture other than tractor. About 60% of students chose agronomy business. And then about 8% of students chose fertilizer and pesticide. Okay, next. From the description about the tendency of student learning goals in English in mostly to be able to communicate in English, well, the tendency of English skill need by student in their job while in speaking. However, they also tend to have difficulty mastering speaking skill. The formulation of the English learning objective for agriculture student at
Vocational school was
discussed in the discussion session. Um, the next is the result of the sixth question about the form assessment is completing during the learning process showed that about 44% of students chose individual. Then about 28% of students chose small group. There are 4 until 6 people, and 20% of students chose pen. Above 20% of students chose pairs 2 people. And then about 8% of students chose large group. There are 5 people or more. Okay, next. The result of the 7 question about things that students should do during the learning process showed that about 64% of students read down or record everything the teacher explained. About 4% of students chose to study independently and work on text calmly. About 4% of students chose just to listen to the teacher explain, and then about 4% of students chose summarizing and work on the text. The next is English learning activities for agriculture students at vacation school. The English learning activities, especially for agriculture students, are formulated by considering several factors such as activities students should do during the learning process, and activities teachers should do during the learning process. Researchers have explained it and summarized the result of the questionnaire related to the considered factors in the form of a graph for easier understanding as follows. The next is the result of the last question about students. Perspective on what things teacher should do during the learning process showed that above 52% of students chose the teacher to read the text and interpret it directly with the students. Then about 32% of students chose the teacher
The formula
and asked students to do the practice question. About 8% of students chose the teacher to move around the classroom while controlling students' work and making comments. And then about
8% of students chose the
teacher to guide students in discussing text. The next is syllabus. Result of need analysis ESP material for agriculture students at Indonesian vocational school in West Sulawesi. Class ESP and speaking for agriculture students. Level basic. Syllabus, a need analysis of ESP material for agriculture students at Indonesian Vocational School in West Sulawesi. Meeting 1. Objective, given an explanation by the teacher, students are able to communicate in English well without
errors.
in pronunciation. Indicator, students are able to read the text in English properly and correctly. Students are able to select the type of English skill and knowledge that students will use when they work later. Material. There are speaking student can start speaking in front of the class with a previously determined partner or group. And listening student can listen to conversation via audio sent via social media. And then media, computers, projectors, social media, online books, and online games. Example, Kahoot and quizzes. Method, communicative language testing approach or CLT. Activities, opening class, greeting and attend student. Main activity, there are the teacher reads the text and
Interprets it.
directly with the students and teacher to move around the classroom while controlling student work and making comments. And the last class. Pray and say thank you. Assessment, giving student the practice. Learning shorts, online book, and social media. Time, 2 hours, 45 minutes. That's all of my explanation about a need analysis of ESP material for agriculture students, Indonesian Vocational School in West Sulawesi. Thank you for nice attention. See you and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.